Okay, great. Well, I call this meeting to order. And let's do quick roll call. You wanna start at the front? Yep.
Diana Wallace.
Laurie Mills.
Chad Smith.
Melissa Morrow.
Don Hudson.
Mary Elizabeth Cofer.
All right. Do we have any public comments? All right, great. All right, well, let's move to the consent agenda. Discussion possible action on minutes for the March 19th Joint Park Commission Park Site Visit. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes. Discussion possible action on minutes from the March 19th Park Commission meeting. I do have I think a correction on that. In the minutes, it says that Steve was talking about a drainage issue, on second base and, the pitcher's mound. It's not. There were, improvements that they were gonna make to the pitcher's mound and to second base. The drainage was in a different area outside of, basically, I think running along the third baseline and one other, on
The
field
third
two.
base dugout on.
Field 2, yeah, third base dugout, always floods.
Yeah.
And was there anything on field one?
I think their first base dugout is the issue.
Yeah.
They put in a French drain, but I don't believe the French drain's quite working as well. But I'm not there enough to see that, so I need feedback.
It was just for the minutes.
Yeah,
clarification on the minutes. So that's all I wanted to clarify.
The one I was talking about is more the third base dugout on field 2.
Okay.
So right now it reads,
That's really, the recording, the audio, are you gonna come back? Sorry. Making sure we can hear you later, we'll get back on that.
right now it reads, Steve Frank of Western Hills girls softball discussed that the softball season is underway and that Little League is pursuing drainage improvements on field 2 near the pitching mound and second base. How do you want that changed?
So it should just say, doing improvements to the pitching mound and second base, and drainage improvements along third base of field 2 and first base of field 1.
Along third base of field 2 and first base.
Or dugout along first base, field 1.
Along first. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and with those corrections, you could choose
Yes.
to approve the
Yep.
minutes.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Great. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Sorry, I know that was kind of specific, but I didn't want someone to think that there was a drainage issue at pitching mound and second base.
Agreed.
All right. All right. Steve, do you have any updates from Western Hills and girls softball?
Thank you. Not much. We did do food trucks in the park. We had breakfast food taco truck in the morning, and then Kona was there majority of the day. There wasn't a lot of activity. I know we had talked about possibly putting it out to Rollingwood, but because of the weather forecast, I didn't even know if the food trucks I was gonna have them come because there was such a high
Right.
chance of rain.
Yeah.
So until Friday, the games could have been canceled at any time, but the games got in, the trucks were there. I don't think there was an issue with noise disturbance. They did park. That food truck had they had a Honda generator, much quieter, and had it in a box and everything, so. And then other than that, everything's going well. I think we've got till the 11th is our last week. I'm not sure, Little League, and then All-Stars.
Probably about the same.
Yeah, I don't think softball will have an all-star team or anything. Little League probably will, but I don't know if they'll be practicing at Rollingwood or not. And then other than that, just, I think I commented about mowing the grass, and then, fire ant hills, are popping up a bunch up there, so I don't know if they got out there or not, but
So you're saying the mowing of the grass is still a problem?
But to me, it looked like field 3, 4, 5 got mowed again and 1 and 2 didn't.
Okay.
At least for this past weekend, and then Fire Ants, one of my coaches, and I was there all day Saturday with the event, and definitely saw some fire ant mounds out there, but then we had the heavy rain Saturday night, and then they pop up even more, and so my coaches that were practicing on Sunday said there was definitely some mounds that had popped up, and so I emailed Ashley and team, and that's been reported, so.
I do have a quick update on this. The fire ants they took care of, they mowed fields 1 and 2 on Monday to make sure they didn't get to the end of the week and not have time to do it. So, I mean, we're kind of in a balancing act where we can do them earlier, be sure they get done, or wait till Thursday or Friday and then hopefully not have a water,
Yeah, or something.
yeah, some kind of issue. So
Okay.
we'll try to be a little better about maybe Wednesday might be a better time, but
Yeah, it was just higher than the other fields, so I was like,
Sure.
oh, they didn't get mowed at the same time.
Right.
That was what I noticed or whatever.
yeah,
Mhm.
sorry about that.
That's all right. But that's it from me. Update on drainage, and Melissa, I don't know if you looked at what came over. Still working on drainage. We had met with Melissa and Kevin, and we were gonna get bids on concrete. Kevin made it sound like it would be cheaper than the original bid I'd gotten. It was not cheaper, it was much more expensive, so we'll be working through that, and I'll work with Melissa and Kevin still and see what's the best option from an affordability standpoint and what we do going forward, but there's nothing to present on that right now.
By concrete, you mean raising the third base dugout?
Yeah, they actually
Okay.
talked about raising all the dugouts. But that was, yes, there was 2 options, adding like another 2 inches to the
Mhm.
dugout to make it higher,
Mm-hmm.
or redoing all the concrete and just totally redoing the dugouts. So the recommendation is to redo them, but you know, it was gonna be, I think it was like $22,000 or whatever, so.
Oh, wow.
Would they be tearing down the structure or
They didn't talk about tearing it down. Somehow they were gonna pull
Just-
up the concrete that's there and pour another one. It didn't talk about demolition at all.
I
at
don't
least
see
in
how
the-
they could do that without demolishing it. I mean, they would have to remove the structure itself.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't discussed in the bid, let's just say that, all it said was demo the concrete and rebuild with rebar and everything like that. It did not talk about at all about rebuilding the structures that are above them.
And that was 22,000.
Yeah, and adding the 2 inches, and this is to all 4 dugouts, I think, was like 14,000, so.
How does that work though? If they add 2 inches, how does that work as far as, binding?
They said there's a way to make it, and that was my question when we met, cause I've seen it where people just pour concrete on top of concrete and it doesn't hold. But Kevin assured me whoever they would use, I don't know, he's more in commercial business stuff, and said that they have better products that will connect.
And you might wanna get a second opinion on that also. And I would think that since it's 2 inches, it might be easier to work with than
Yeah.
if it was a thinner layer, cause you see driveways and stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I've
Yeah,
seen
but,
it.
but
yeah.
2 inches is significant.
Yeah,
But I would still ask around just to be sure that you're not getting your information from one place and it turns out, whoops, they were wrong.
yeah.
That could be an expensive whoops.
So it was Izzy who got the other bid, right?
Izzy had gotten
Yeah.
both optional bids.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that layer add and the full redo.
He did? Okay.
So it was definitely more expensive than I was expecting, but so we'll work through all that and figure out what's the best option to present.
I think the
Going
fact that
forward.
it's 2 inches, they'd have a better chance of making it work.
Yeah.
yeah, agree. Did 14,000 was that for basically adding a layer on top of existing concrete?
Correct.
Okay.
And I wasn't for sure, but I think it was all the dugouts. I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah.
But I know that when we talked about it, we know that problem ones are first base, field 1, third base, field 2. Those were, so it might just be 2, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't get the attachment, so that
Yeah,
part I
it
haven't
wasn't
seen.
very descriptive on
Okay.
how many were being done and what,
Yeah.
I mean, it just says that 2 inches. So,
Well, let's, see if we can't meet with Kevin
Yeah.
and Izzy and just, the 4 of us go out there and walk it again. The other concern is that if you raise it 2 inches, now, does it
The
feel a little
structure,
bit, the
is it high
structure's,
enough
yeah, cause, you
for
don't
us
want
tall
dads
people?
hitting their head every time. So, yep.
It would make the benches lower also.
Yep, exactly, yep.
But that's the update there, but yeah, nothing to present at this time, but we're still discussing options.
Great.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Anything else?
thank you.
Great.
Thanks,
Perfect.
Steve.
All right, so discussion, let's see, actually, discussion possible action regarding prioritizing projects in the park. Hold on, I'm just gonna keep discussion. Park Commission meeting date. Oh, yeah, I know this sounds crazy, but can I skip to the number 8, discussion possible action regarding Park Commission meeting day and time? Just because, this one, we were trying to make it be a time that everybody could meet. Obviously, we wanna have a regular cadence that you can put on your calendar. So, could we run through that exercise real quick of, right now, it's better if we meet before the council meetings, so that these items get to council. It's not the end of the world for us to be after. We also wanna make sure that it's not the week of council meeting, because y'all are really busy. Is there another week that's also sort of off limits for, the staff?
I don't think so.
Maybe
Looking
the
at
last
my
week of the
calendar.
month.
Yeah, the last week of the month is not our preference, but, usually first and second weeks is when Park Commission has generally been, so those usually work well for us, but
Okay,
keeps our meetings all spread out kinda nicely where we're not doing all in one,
that sounds good.
yeah.
So, right now, what was our standard? Was it the second Tuesday?
Yeah, when you guys decided in November, the only time that worked was the second Tuesday of the month at noon.
Okay. Second Tuesday.
And I think we were working to accommodate Lori and Nicole's schedules were the most difficult, I think, to accommodate.
I
Isn't
think
that
mine
right?
was too. Cause Tuesday's not good for me, but I've moved my staff meeting at work.
Well, go by whatever y'all wanna
Yeah,
do.
yeah, no, we wanna do it, we
No.
wanna make it where it's convenient for everyone, that's the whole point. So, are we saying the second Tuesday of the month, does that work for everybody? Okay, well, let's just make sure
Works
that
for
we
me.
put it on your calendar for the rest of the year. Do you guys even send out calendar invites for this?
There's one
You will.
recurring one that you should
Okay.
already have on all your calendars.
Okay, great, alright,
So that means in May, it would be,
The 14th.
And we'll stay with noon?
Yep.
Okay.
Alright, we're all agreed, we'll make sure Victoria, is good with that too. Alright, alright, oh yeah, that's, discussion possible regarding limits on commercial field usage, do we know what that's about? Did that come from council? The number 7, discussion possible action regarding limits on commercial field usage?
That did come from council. They discussed at a couple meetings ago, that I-9, proposal had come back, and I know Melissa, I think you were there at the
Yep.
meeting. And I think they just wanted if there was any questions or clarifications about participants on the field or any limits that y'all wanted to put on commercial usage. I think the main question that came up at that meeting, and, Michaela or Desiree, correct me if I missed that, but I think that there's a question about the max participants for commercial use. So it says up to 50 participants max, but we weren't aware of whether that was per field, if it can be 50, we rent those out separately, so we rent out 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and 5 separately. Questions came up of, well, can there be possibly 150 people up there at a time, and so whether that was going to be limited was a question, and from all the motions, we went back and checked, and nothing really seemed to clarify whether that was on a field by field basis
Mhm.
or the entire thing. And I think that was the general question, that we don't really have any other groups that come in and use it in large, large groups like, quite like I-9, so I don't know if they have any other concerns there.
So I-9, are they, do they ever have camps more than 50 people?
They said they, I don't know about 50, maybe a few more. If it's over 30 is when they've requested to use 3, 4, and 5.
Uh-huh.
So they sometimes have between 30 and 50, and they've said if they have more than 30, that's when they would prefer to be on 3, 4, and 5 for more, space and be able to kind of diversify their activities. I don't believe they've ever had more, but it sounds like they might be running, 30 on one field, 30 on another, and that could possibly then be 60, and then it's,
Mhm.
how many's too many, basically.
So do y'all remember the conversation? I know it's been a while since we had that
Mhm.
conversation. Was everybody's understanding that it was 50 per field, or was it 50 total?
Well, regardless, I think field 3, 4, and 5 could hold 60, and field 1 and 2 probably ought to be limited to about 30.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, we could roll with that and just vote it in.
So that would be total 60 at 120 total? Like if you had all 3 fields going at once? How do we feel about 120? So is that total people? Because like I'm thinking for a game, what, right now Western Hills Little League, do they ever have multiple games going on in that 3, 4, and 5?
Not right now, to my knowledge. We have in years past, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so that would be 10 kids a side on 3 fields.
Roughly, yeah.
So that's 20. That's 60 kids plus adults is probably more than 60 people then.
I don't know though that this would necessarily apply to Western Hills Little Leaguers. I think this may be.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
using
No, but
that
she's
as the
using that as
standard.
numbers.
Kind of
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
many people that is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But those kids, are they all on the field at the same time? And the adults? all
They're
at the
they're
same time?
inside the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was thinking dugouts and,
So yeah, that would be 60 without even counting parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Which would be a lot.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm thinking of 60 cars up there.
I thought that, when
But
Nicole
with
and
a
I,
kid, that's not, the cars aren't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, totally.
We're just talking about kids and a few adults.
I thought that when Nicole and I redid how you apply for use of the fields, I thought we, in that document that we created, I thought we put some guidelines in there about maximum numbers and time of usage and,
That
That-
was pretty detailed.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was.
detailed,
Do
yeah.
you
We
know where
looked
that
at that.
document is?
What you looked at for this research, the document they're referencing. We pulled this straight from what was.
meeting, Well, this would have been a separate document.
Yeah, and it would have been like if you're applying, like if you're I-9 for the first time, is there like a packet that you get?
I believe now they just do through our online, and they, on the website.
Fill out a
there's all the
Google
different-
form.
Here's the rules, here's the, they get
So-
all those.
so it might be in there.
I think that's where we looked, and I think we were just, I think the only question we had was up to 50 participants. I think that's all it said, and I don't know if that was by location or not. I think that was maybe the only thing that was unanswered.
I'll see if
for
I can
those.
find it.
Okay.
Okay.
Because in my mind, I think I was thinking that's per field. Because if you have a practice and you're dropping kids off, that's not so bad. Although I think 30 is much more reasonable for one of those softball fields.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
And then, but it's more that if there was a situation where, one person rented one, another person rented 2, someone else rented 3, 4, and 5 all at the same time, and we maxed out at 120, that's a lot.
It's very rare, I think, that we've ever, and I think even probably the staff, if we ever had a request for 120 people to be in the upper park, we'd probably just come to council or park commission if we had the time to get it there, just because that's an unusual use,
Yeah.
out of the ordinary. So,
So right now, schedule-wise, again, I'm trying to just go on what's existing.
Mhm.
Do you ever have softball and Western Hills Little League playing at the same time?
Yeah, I believe so. On
So-
fields 1 and 2, for sure.
And so what is sort of the max that's happening right now? Because I know what I'm getting at is no one's complained about that.
Yeah,
And so.
I would imagine it's about 30 on each of them.
Uh-huh.
if you talk about parents and fans and coaches and then 10 or 12 kids on each team,
But 30, and then how many on 3, 4, and 5 at the same time?
up to 60. I mean, I
But we've never had 120 people on all 3 of them.
in years past we've had Saturday morning
Okay.
games. There's been
Not
all
the past couple seasons.
yeah,
Probably,
but I mean going back
probably last
3 or 4
spring,
years,
2 springs ago,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we would
we've
have
had all
a-
5
we'd have
rocking at the same
Okay.
time.
Field 1,
Again-
field 2, field 3, 4, and all 5 fields running.
Yeah, I don't see that, or at least this is my, again, trying to, work through this. Probably not a problem when it's Western Hills Little League and girls softball,
Mhm.
but if it was girls softball, I-9, somebody who just rents it, who doesn't know it, and y'all aren't coordinating and cooperating with each other, I could see people getting pretty irritated.
This was
Um,
something that happened this past week, actually, one of the first visits with I-9. And they started coming on the field at 3:30 in the afternoon. It's my understanding they're supposed to come onto the field at 4:15 to set up. Then 4:30 it begins,
Mhm.
and that's fine, so it allows for the multi-use field, so everybody gets a turn at the park. But had no idea how many students were coming or anything else for either 1 and 2, and they were already on setting up equipment at 3:30 that afternoon. Actually, to get things organized, city staff had to kind of remind them of what the directions were and such. And by the time they got off, which was around 4:30, the softball people were coming in, so it was a bit of a mess. It was a
Mhm.
bit of a confusion. Now, I understand there's an inconsistency of the coaches that are working, and so the chain of command and the chain of communication is sometimes broken. But I think that would be greatly improved if everybody talked to one another,
Yeah,
so that, some people would know that, yes, Western Athletic is coming in, yes, I-9 would like to do this, if this comes up. All it takes is a little bit of foreknowledge and planning. I think the rules are very generous.
mhm.
Yeah,
Steve?
from my understanding, because I've talked to Justin a couple times, is he's supposed to be on field 2. We do not have a practice softball. That's softball's field. We do not have a practice on field 2, and I told him that field is his on
Mhm.
Tuesday afternoons. We do have a practice on Tuesday in field 3, so that's why I told him field 2 is wide open for whatever
Mhm.
he's holding. So maybe it's just reinforcing that they should be on field 2.
Oh, uh-huh.
Like I said, I've talked to him a couple times, and he knew it was gonna be field 2, so maybe it's miscommunication with his employees or something, that they think, they don't know which field that is,
Yeah,
so.
Fi-
I have heard that they consider that part of 3, 4, and 5 that's right outside of field 2, because that's, I guess, where people sometimes would go and warm up. They consider that field 2, and we have explained to them that because it's inside the confines of 3, 4, and 5, that, it is considered 3, 4, and 5, not field 2, but they have mentioned that that's maybe some confusion there, that they consider that to be part of field 2, which we do not.
Now, didn't city council decide that they can only use field 3, 4, and 5 with permission from city council?
They did.
Okay.
And in this most recent one, it was if it's already in use by softball, baseball, and softball, baseball is willing to give I-9 a portion of it, then that's fine, because 3, 4, and 5 is then already not available for use for other
Got it.
things. But if they're not on there, they need to be strictly on field 2.
Yeah, because a lot of times we do try to squeeze them in the back behind field 3 practices, but specifically, I talked to him twice about field 2 is wide open, use field 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin agreed, so I
Yeah.
just, I think it's just communication with his people to let them know.
I think so,
Yeah, because
too.
field 2 is wide open on Tuesday afternoon.
Sure. And this last time, they did mention the regular instructor called in sick, and they had another instructor there, and so he was
Yeah.
stepping in. He didn't realize the timing or the location, but we called Justin and he got it fixed. But again,
Great.
it's still some work on our end.
Bit of a kerfuffle.
Right. But yeah, to go back, so I'm looking at the rules we have here for the rental and fees payment. And I believe this came straight from Nicole and Don when we did this a while back, and it maybe just could be clarified. It just says Hatley Park Field or Hatley Field usage limited to 50 participants, and then it just says fields 1 or 2, 25 an hour, fields 3, 4, and 5, 50 an hour. So it's hard to say, does that apply to the entire thing? Does that only apply to one, is 1 or 2 50, and is 3, 4, and 5 50? I think just any clarification on that, or if y'all have discussions, or if we wanna change it, like you said, to 30, 30, and 50 or 60, we would just be open to those clarifications.
What's easiest for y'all, if we lump it as 2 sections, 1 and 2, and 3, 4, and 5, or we do it per field?
It really doesn't matter as long as we just know exactly how many. I mean, it looks like this could possibly be construed to 50 between 1 and 2, and then 50 on 3, 4, and 5, if that's a way we wanna, if that's the interpretation we wanna
I think
go
that
with
was
it.
the intent.
Was that the intent?
I
That
believe
might
so.
make more sense, cause
Yeah.
they're maybe more similar in size, 1 and 2 combined,
Mhm.
than 3, 4, and 5, so.
Yeah.
If that's the way we want it, it's just, in the council meeting, when that question had come up, and they had talked about possibly having up to 60, the council was like, well, is that even allowed? And we were like, well, it's kinda hard to tell a little bit from these rules, so we just wanted some clarification.
Okay, so, it sounds like, we might be getting close to a motion that might say something like, the combination not to exceed
I would say
A s-
60.
total for all of
Six.
them.
No, 60 on 1 and 2, 60 on 3, 4, and 5. I would go higher than saying.
30 on 1, 30 on 2, 60 on 3, 4, 5.
That sounds good to me.
That's-
So, and those
sounds
could be the
reasonable.
maxes for those individual fields. Do we feel like we're all comfortable with 120 being the max if all 3 of them are?
Boy, that's
I
a lot
am.
of,
I
lot of,
am.
lot of
I want
cars.
to see the fields
Yeah.
used.
Yeah,
by these
I wanna
kids.
see 'em
Like,
used,
that's
yeah.
really important to me.
Yeah.
And I
No,
don't
for
want to
sure.
say, oh, we've got 10 extra kids. No, that's not okay. I mean, how many people are using the fields for dogs? I mean, that's a lot of people
Yeah.
when I look out there sometimes.
Yeah.
So we're not limiting them. I would just rather err on the side of let's encourage these fields to be used for youth sports.
Okay, so
There's
is that a
never more
motion?
than 10 people with
Yes,
dogs.
that's my motion, to go for 60.
Okay, so,
You tell me how you want me to say it.
so,
I'd prefer to say it 60 without, permission otherwise.
mhm.
Now, what are you saying?
60 without permission otherwise is the max. And
Like,
if you want to put more than that for a
you
movie
come
night
to
or
the-
something,
On
Yeah.
3, 4, and 5,
yeah.
and then 60 combined 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say you spell it out, 30 on
30
each.
and
30 on each, okay.
Because
I
I don't
think-
want,
I think
I don't
that-
want 45 kids
Right.
on field 2
I
and
agree.
15 on
I
1.
think let's
Yeah.
spell it out.
Yeah,
30, 30, 60,
yeah.
Yeah,
max.
But you
Okay.
still need,
All right, so that's the motion,
okay,
and
So-
I second it.
okay. Is there any more discussion?
Please no.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great.
now that
Right.
still requires city council approval for
For more than 60 or more than 30 on each of
for the use of 3, 4, and 5.
I don't
For
know.
I9
That's-
specifically, that is the
Yeah.
policy.
Okay.
For I9
Yeah.
to use 3, 4, and 5.
Isn't that for anybody to use 3, 4, and 5?
I think the actual policy that they laid out at their last meeting or a couple meetings ago was specifically I9, and they are currently the only group that we have.
Okay, I see.
So, we generally do try to push them to 1 and 2 if those are open. So if we have any kind of group coming in and they just want to use a field, we try to put them on 1 or 2 or outside of the fields if possible. So, and normally it's small enough groups that that's not a problem. So.
I think that's good policy.
Okay. So since this is on here, I do, and I'm just gonna throw it out there, when we talk about monetizing things, and we did just see these people, I know these people are going to make a request to city council about using the field for, movie making,
Commercial.
for,
Yeah.
and so, one thought would be, and I'm just sharing stuff that we've done at WEA, where we basically say, if it's less than 10 grand, we're not even interested in talking, because it just wastes time of
Staff time.
and a lot of people will just go away at that point, because they're like, I don't wanna spend that much money. Now, we don't have to say 10 grand, but I do think you should pick sort of a dollar amount that it's not worthwhile of the staff to waste their time talking to these people.
Having to sign waivers and
I feel like
confidentiality and all
Toyota
that.
could do 10 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how long are they wanting to use?
No, we're not gonna,
Yeah.
we're not,
We don't even know.
we don't even,
We're
well,
not
they
in-
basically
just that-
said,
We
they
can't
said,
have a conversation for
Yeah,
less than
it's
10
not
grand.
on
yeah,
the,
yeah. So in this
it's not on
particular
the
case,
agenda, y'all.
no, it's discussion of possible action regarding limits on commercial field usage. I know that that's, all I'm saying is, that is a commercial use. And so I'm just gonna say, for the next meeting, we should have a conversation about anything else that we would want to discuss in that way, because council is going to get a request, and they, just going forward, not necessarily having to do with this time specifically, but is that something that we would be open to for generating cash for the park? Anyway, we won't go any farther.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
a consideration is, my sister had a big, beautiful house in Arkansas, and she rented it out to movie makers, and they brought big, heavy camera equipments on track machines and tore up the road to her house, and they'll probably,
They usually fix what they break.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we just need to be aware of that. I mean, this might not be that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I've
I
had
think
plenty
that-
of friends who've had stuff done in their house,
Yeah.
and whatever they broke, they fixed, and
Yeah.
they ended up with,
That ought to be in the
it was
contract.
it was a good investment for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think the 10,000 minimum I think that's fine.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, we can, again,
What's
this
a
can be
lovely
just something that we
moneymaker for
talk
the
about in the
park.
future, but just think about other opportunities like that could be one-offs that we could talk about, and then just sort of
I'd
have an easy
imagine
way.
Council's just gonna make their own decision.
Yeah. But
and that's
this
gonna
is a
run,
policy-making group, so we can help them make the policy about it.
that's gonna bump up against the 25 an hour and the,
Well, let's not worry
It's a
about it.
completely different deal.
Yeah.
It's a completely
Okay.
different deal.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to get back to the number 5, prioritizing projects, and, I don't know if
do we
we'll
need a
get to
motion
six-
for the 10 grand
No,
minimum?
we're not,
We
No,
can't,
it's
This-
not
that-
on the
we don't wanna
agenda,
vote on
so
it.
we can't really talk about it.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
since it came up and they're going to come to council, I'm just bringing up that concept, and wasn't on our agenda, so we can't discuss it.
Okay, got it.
All right, so discussion, and possible action regarding prioritizing projects in the park. So did everybody get my email that said
Yes.
which committee you ended up on?
Yes.
Yeah, and I've forgotten which ones I'm on.
I got
Let's
it.
see.
Yep. Mary Elizabeth, did you get?
I did.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through it again real quick, for the record. So I have, address erosion near the field house, Diana, Victoria, and Chad. Address erosion near the pavilion, Melissa, Mary Elizabeth, Lori. Repair and improve the walking trail, Dawn, Lori, Diana. Improve the safety and usability of the parking around the upper playing fields, Chad, Melissa, Victoria. And add trees, Mary Elizabeth, Dawn, and Diana.
I thought I was on a third.
You can be.
That's okay.
You're on trees and repair and improve walking trail. Diana was the only one who told me 3, and so she ended up on 3.
I was trying
Trees
to
and-
offer you a selection
No,
if
I
you needed
loved
someone to
that.
fill in.
I know. Well, and it is kind of nice to have 3. And I tried to also balance out differing kinds of views and users across those. So I don't know if I was successful or not, but Desiree?
I just did wanna let you know that Victoria said that she's okay with where you have
Oh.
put her, she's happy with those assignments,
Excellent,
so she
great.
did email that.
Okay,
Should
so,
Mary Elizabeth be on trails? I feel like she's been very involved in that.
I was kind of surprised I wasn't.
well, you didn't send me anything.
I didn't.
No?
That wasn't listed?
That's why I just put you where I thought you would be good. But I was thinking trails also. Can we have 4 people on a committee or not?
No.
It needs to be 3 or less. Okay, so,
That Don has been, he has been on the Violet Crown Trail. He has a pretty good idea of it.
well, how do you,
Well,
Diana?
do you wanna swap with me on another one? Cause
I would
I'm
re-
on trails, and I think you have way more knowledge of that than I do.
I would like to do, will you take the erosion near the pavilion?
I think I'm already there, aren't I?
Oh,
Yeah. What do you think about Diana switching with you? So, because Diana can go down 1 and not, because she's on 3. So if I put, Mary Elizabeth on trails, and, anytime they don't have all three of them meeting, they can loop you in.
Okay.
Okay, great, I really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no, I figured, I kinda figured
Yeah,
that's
I was like-
what would happen.
You need to be on that one.
Thank you.
Okay, so move, to trails. Now,
So who's
Yeah.
on, I'm not, what's the date of your email?
Do you need a third person
it
on?
is,
April 21st.
Sunday.
Sunday, okay, I
So,
should be able to find
So you are on a repair and improve walking trail and add trees. Those are the two.
that. Okay,
Do you
Which
need
are
a,
the two that you asked for.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
do you need a third person on addressing erosion near the pavilion? Because if
We
I
sure could have one.
Because if you take me off there, it just leaves Melissa, it just leaves you and Lori.
Here's what I believe, and I could be wrong, that the pavilion one will be the easiest one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's why I put myself on there.
okay. Because you can.
Good call.
Yeah. So I do think two is probably enough, but if you don't wanna be on it, or Diana, if you wanna join us with the pavilion, that's fine.
Okay, I'm good.
You wanna be off pavilion?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay, perfect. Great. All right, so what are we gonna do going forward? Now, this is the part where we'll have, let's, kind of try to have 5 or so minutes discussion about what we think next steps should be for each of these committees. And I'll start with what I think is gonna be the easiest, the erosion near the pavilion. Basically, I think that group should meet with Izzy. I believe Izzy has a solution, for, I think it's building up concrete around the base of that.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion would be that the three of us, which will be, me, Lori, and Diana, will meet with Izzy and just have him tell us what he thinks will be the solution for it. And if for some reason we don't like that solution, then we can explore some other ones. But that will be, I'm thinking that's next steps for that specific one. Does that sound? And what I'd love is if we can do that in the next week, we might be able to get Izzy to give us a bid for how much he thinks that is, so that we can get it into the budget for this next year.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, all right. So that was the easiest one. Now moving on to, let's see if there's another one that's easier. Oof.
Planting trees.
Yeah, okay, let's do trees. So Mary Elizabeth, Dawn, and Diana, what we'd like you to do is get together and talk about what you think tree-wise a tree plan would be for the next, 5 years or so.
Well, you really have to involve an arborist, figure out what would grow there, how many you could do, all of that, which we've had a small discussion about with the guy that did the drainage.
And we've actually already started, so we're I think we're kind of in a waiting, I need to find out, I know that Ted, he sent me a text message that he sent an email to Ashley, so I'm kind of waiting to see where they are on that. I'm not sure really what next steps would be, so I guess I should touch base with Ashley, see where they are. But we could go ahead and meet and talk about other areas and make those suggestions to city council.
Well,
Yeah.
you're gonna make them back to us.
I mean, make the suggestions back,
Yeah,
okay.
you're gonna make them, the whole idea is these committees will make suggestions back to this group, then the whole group will vote on them as recommendations going to city council.
Yeah, we could do for example, just a trial plan for what might work, where we could, I see that as creating little groves of trees, of maybe 3 or 4 trees. And this came up as people wanting to memorialize citizens in the park, and maybe we're just,
I think it's not gonna be just memorialization,
Yeah.
we're talking about shade, we've already agreed, we don't want this place to look like a graveyard.
I agree, but we did talk about minimizing we're not gonna put up a billboard, but people who wanna do that, there's some decision-making there. How do we do that? how do they pay for that, et cetera?
Well, I think we get the tree plan together.
Let's
Yeah.
do the
And
trees.
then we talk about that. We do not have people beating down our door to memorialize people. We had
Let's-
one person ask in the 8
So-
years
so-
I've been on this committee.
So let's
Yeah.
focus on the
And
trees.
I don't
Good
know
idea,
that, I think
yeah.
she was looking for something to put her name on. I don't know that she wanted to pay for a memorial.
So
Right.
let's
But
just,
yes, you're exactly right with the history of how this all came about, like what could we do if people asked? But I think we need to start with the right plan, and that's secondary.
yeah, so let's
Agreed.
focus on the trees.
Yep.
Okay,
The,
so we would meet and,
But you need
Decide.
outside help to do
Yeah,
that
you're
because
gonna-
we don't know what.
I
mean,
have
we
it.
had ideas with him about what he
Yeah.
thought would work for that area. I think the primary
Yeah,
area
we've already
we
got
wanna
pictures.
start with is in between the ball fields and the pool.
Yeah, we've already
Yeah.
got,
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got a head start.
yeah,
I say we, I'm not on the committee, so.
Yeah.
right, but we did get that started. So we'll work with that and go take the next step.
the one area that you would want to keep in mind is as the committee that's working on improving the safety and usability of the parking around the upper playing fields, is just let them know, the arborist or whoever the professional on
did.
trees, that, you know, we're gonna plant some trees there. Perfect.
We had that discussion
Great.
with him about how that would work with parking and everything and what we could do to protect the trees plus added parking and, yeah, we had that discussion.
Okay, awesome. So do y'all, trees, you feel like you have a good notes to go? Okay, perfect.
so it's me, Laurie, Mary Elizabeth,
So
trees,
it's
No,
Diana,
Diana.
you, and
Mary
Mary
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth.
John, and Diana.
okay.
So you guys need to set up a time, and we may even, if we are end early, be able to get together before you leave at 1 o'clock and set your next meeting.
Okay, very good.
Good.
All right, so the next group,
Okay, the next group, let's see. Let's try the erosion near the field house. That one is gonna be a little more complicated because I believe a drainage study, is a drainage study being done for the
I-
park? Where,
yeah, I think that's also what Ted is working on. They brought in an engineer, right?
Between Ted and, that other group, what's the other one's name?
Ted's Mossverde.
Ted's Mossverde, there's the other one,
He brought in an engineer that he works with.
the rain tank company. IWS. IWS is supposed to be providing us, the council actually approved that already, and they'll be providing us
Okay.
the, I guess, proposal for, or the actual, engineering of that, as well as some improvements to, the Gentry Dixon, pond area over there. So those two things are supposed to be taken care of by IWS. I'll check Becca on that and see where we are on that. And then, Mossverde is more of like a general full park. And I do have a long email from them in my inbox that I need to respond to a bunch of questions for, so I'm probably beholden up at that at this moment.
And would you let him know if IWS is working on something, and make sure he's not trying to reinvent the wheel or work?
duplicate efforts.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, I just feel like they're two kind of different, the IWS is very specific, like, we wanna put a retaining wall here, design it, or, whatever, and the same thing for that. This is more of a look at the overall park. Council really didn't wanna be giving someone, here's the problems, they wanted someone to tell them, like, what are the problems. So
Right.
I think we could maybe work in that, these may be done in the future, but until those are done, I don't know that we wanna take those out of the scope of
Okay,
Mossberg.
all right, you got this.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
so
Cool,
since
thank
we prioritize that as one of our top things that we wanna get done, what would be helpful from this committee to help that move forward?
I suspect council may wanna send, once we have an actual proposal, they may wanna send it back through here.
Perfect.
That's pretty much all I can guess at this moment would be the,
And if that comes before our next meeting, that committee can even review it, so they can make a recommendation back to the group.
sure, that'd be great.
You know, Ted Moss, his approach to drainage and water flow is, he likes to, he's very green in his work, but he wants things to be set up to absorb water and grow shrubbery and trees and stuff. It'll be interesting to see, how that all shakes down. I don't know if these two work together. It sounds like IWS is gonna be more about, pipes and concrete
Structural.
and,
Usually, yeah,
French drains, and so my image of the park is always just the greenest flowers everywhere, you know.
Can they look at the
I would
French
dream
drain
on,
that's
right.
not working for Steve?
Things like that, yes, they can probably look at something like that. I know we talked about that with, Moss Verde when they were here, so that will hopefully be part of theirs. But the other one was much more targeted approach, and they're not necessarily working together. They're
Yeah.
trying not to overlap them because
Sure.
they just had a very specific mission, so.
So, and that gets back to a, important point, which is we have 3 projects that are probably going to impact one another. Well, and it's, one of them is not even on our priority list, which is the drainage of the field, then the retaining wall, and then the walking trail that's right below it, because those all basically impact each other. So am I understanding that Moss is gonna come back with a overall report about, and they've been tasked with that and it's gonna be paid for?
They are just bringing a proposal, so no, it has
Okay.
not been, they will bring a proposal for here's what we think it would, take ideally to do this study, and then council would vote on it.
Okay.
But at that point, they may want that to come back to PARC.
Okay, so this group needs to feel comfortable, timing wise, about making a proposal, like if the IWS thing comes back and says, here's how we would engineer it, then the question will be, does this group feel comfortable moving forward with IWS's recommendation before the Moss plan for the whole park comes back? Or the proposal gets accepted to go do the study? And I think that's the chicken and egg thing that we keep running into.
Right.
So, but I just wanted to manage expectations for everybody in that way. Does that make sense?
And on that one in particular, that's the $30,000 that RCDC has approved for that retaining wall, and so obviously depending, if it comes back with this much more elaborate design, it can't be done for $30,000, that'd be different, but I think it'll probably be pretty much in that ballpark, so that one, I don't know if that, how many, if they wanna send that back through this route, they might just go, okay, great, we now have this thing that we've been waiting for, we wanna go ahead and say, let's do it, staff will go get bids, and then
Okay.
we'll select one, so that part specifically, I'm not sure, which, if it will come back through, we'll have to handle that once we get it.
Okay.
Is IWS, are they talking about doing that retaining wall right there?
Below the field house.
Yeah, see, that's the one that concerns me, for them jumping on board with that, because what we learned later was that if that soil is built up around those trees, that it could harm those trees.
They're aware of that, and they're not intending to do that part. They're putting I don't think they're intending to like level it up all the way to all of those trees. It's just a very like shallow, continuation of that.
Like a dam?
That wall. And
But is
they're
it gonna
aware
go
of it.
all the way across as far as he said?
I don't know exactly how far it's gonna go. They ran it out to about where the ground kind of comes down and meets at the end of like, kind of where, where that current, across the trail is, where there's that little rock kind of cut out there. I think that's about the area. But like I said, he's aware of that. We've made him aware of that concern. So when he's designing it, he's
Okay.
not planning on making any.
Okay, good,
So are
okay.
we duplicating efforts if people are already working on these things?
No, what we're saying is that, when IWS has a recommendation, they'll bring it to that committee. If that committee is before our meeting, they can go talk to them first, so that at least 3 people will kind of get up to speed on it and be able to have a good conversation.
You mean Moss Verde, right? Moss Verde, the full park drainage.
No,
system?
I was thinking the IWS, cause you said
Okay.
that's coming, cause
I think it's maybe the other way. Maybe Moss Verde, I would see that coming back because we did the park walkthrough.
She's
with
saying
them.
IWS will not
Oh,
come back
they're
here,
not
so
gonna come
that
back
we
to
can
us.
Yeah, they're
solve
just
that
gonna-
group
So
if
we
we're
don't-
not part of
oh,
that.
then we're out,
I
so
don't
are you saying we don't even need to be, it's
Mm.
not gonna come back to us at all?
I think it's already been approved by
Yes,
city
I
council,
think
so
they're
I
already
think they're
full
just gonna
force,
rock it.
I think
To-
so.
to do
Well,
a
no,
study,
they asked for
correct?
an engineering study.
Right. Council
Yeah.
approved IWS to do the engineering
Yes.
on that solution and the solution over at the Nixon,
Yeah.
drain, the
Right.
pond. We just intended on bringing that back to them and saying, here's the engineering that you asked for. Are we clear to go get bids and do
Yeah.
these 2 projects? And so I don't know, at that point, I guess they might, and if we got it ahead of PARC, we might bring it here too and
Yes.
just say, FYI, this is what's going to council.
Yes.
They've already asked for this, but
We
if
don't
we
need a
don't,
committee.
it would probably just come straight to council, so. I I agree that that one, probably the committee doesn't necessarily need to be part of that. If it's this bigger project, this park drainage project that Mas Verde is working on, I think that might be something more that that group may wanna look at, because I don't assume that that's gonna come and be 100% exactly, you know, just ready to go. I think there, a lot of people will want input on, you know, those different things that they're going to propose.
Yeah,
So
well,
we'll
that's a
see
much
what that
bigger
looks
thing.
like. Mhm.
I just wanna make sure that if it's gonna come back here, that there's a committee that will at least look at it.
Doesn't sound like that's the plan.
Okay, well, we'll see.
I would almost expect them to bring it back to us and just to get us to weigh in on it. We don't have any authority to change it or anything, but I think council is trying to involve the commissions more.
Yeah,
That's,
well, it helps their meetings go faster because some of the vetting's already been done.
I have one question. So who exactly talked to IWS about the fact, the health of the trees and the impact that the soil added on top of the roots would?
I did. It's
You
even
did?
myself. So they did a walkthrough, I don't even know how long ago that was, months ago, and I wasn't there for that one. And he's come back out since then, since council approved that proposal, and we have specifically walked that area and that pond and talked to him about, because we had actually just had that other walkthrough with Mas Verde, so this was like 2
Oh,
days later.
Thank
So
you.
I heard your comments
Oh,
about the
thank you
trees
so
and I
much.
reiterated those things.
Okay.
He was not, he totally agreed, he was not intending on
Oh,
building it up. to
you make me
walk
feel
through.
so much
Yes,
better.
okay.
Okay, good. All right, so let's move on to repair and improve walking trail. That's Dawn, Lori, and Diana. So
So I think with this, we can go ahead and reach out to Aishan General Construction, which he's done this before. And if you guys, wait, who else on this group again? It's Dawn?
It's
Don,
Mary
Lori.
Elizabeth. I've dropped out.
Oh, yeah, that's
Mary
right. Sorry,
Elizabeth
sorry.
is there.
you're right.
Dawn, me,
Dawn,
and who else?
Lori, and Mary Elizabeth.
Okay, so before, Nicole and I had met, were you there, Laura, when we did this before? Okay, so before we had done this with Tim Eishen from Eishen General Construction, he's the one doing the Violet Crown Trail. So, and then Dawn had actually gone out and seen the Violet Crown Trail. That's when he became so impressed, because he got to actually see some of it underwater because it flooded.
yeah, there's parts of the Violet Ground Trail that literally, the flooding creek it's at the bottom of the creek with water and gravel washing over it. And the way they do the surface there, it's held together by some sort of an epoxy, or I don't know what it is,
It's a
but
binder, it's a binder.
it's a binder, but it doesn't wash away.
So we could just ask Tim if he could spend a little bit of time with us, do this one more time, and then he can communicate with Ted Moss as to when is a good time to how to coordinate their work, so that he could give us a proposal based on whatever happens if Mas Verde comes in and does something as far as drainage.
I know timeline, like how long would it take to do, and do they do it, like what their process is?
Yeah, like
It's
when would they?
sections, or how does it work?
Yeah, and when would they do the trail based on what any other work that gets done?
You know, one thing about that trail is that the border to that trail was put down by citizens, correct? Isn't the trail around the ball fields, wasn't that done by?
Oh wait, you mean up here?
Yeah.
Only this section right here was. The rest of it, they hired American Youth Works.
Okay. Kevin had talked about tearing it up, putting down a concrete footing, and then replacing stones on the concrete footing. And most of the trail is intact. Most of the trail is fine. It's a little wambly, but to me that's okay. That doesn't bother me a bit, and I think the estimate on that was 100,000 plus.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that.
don't think that's enough juice for.
I don't think we're gonna do that, but I think what we could do is we could walk the trail and just identify places where the rocks need to be reset. There's some grade issues where they've sunken and some where they've risen.
I know Izzy, I walked the park with Izzy this month, and I know that they have worked on several of those.
Okay.
So we can just,
Pulling
why
them
don't we
up
just
and-
plan to, the three of us get together and we'll walk and make some plans and, then we can get, Tim Ischen to coordinate with Ted on next steps. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing is that I doubt we may need to do like we were talking about with the surface material that won't wash away.
That's what we're
But we
talking
don't
about.
have, we don't have creeks.
That's what he does.
Okay, but we won't have creeks flowing over it. We'll
We
have
don't, but we do have areas where there is
Pretty
drainage
strong
issues.
wash.
We
And
won't have to constantly be putting down more gravel.
Okay, all right, I agree, next step is to
okay,
walk
well,
it.
let's set a meeting. Okay, next.
Okay, the last one is improve the safety and usability of the parking around the upper playing fields. That's Chad, Melissa, and Victoria. That one is gonna be probably pretty serious.
Let's put a
Has there-
cookie
do
shop
you-
up there in the middle of it.
So,
Great idea.
Great idea.
I have a quick question, Ashley. Has there been any work done previously talking about those parking lots, either to repave them or reorganize them? Has there been any paid work done on any of that? Okay.
Not that we're aware of.
So if we were to, so I think that group needs to get together and talk about what we would propose for this next year. Is it a study on parking? Is it I don't, who does a study for parking, like, or? who-
Civil
is there
engineer.
There's civil engineers
Okay.
that'll do that.
But
But
it's
is there
such-
anyone that's, like, who did the parking lot, when they redid the parking lot over here that was a spoil site? Do we know who was used?
I'm not sure, that was
The one at
A
Gentry.
long time ago.
Yeah, not that long, like 10 years, I mean,
I know, but
15 years.
nobody who's
Oh,
here.
yeah. No, I know, but if you can find out,
Abel.
yeah.
See,
okay.
where's Joyce Howe when you need her?
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll get with, that group will get with Ashley, we'll see who we have resource-wise from the city, and get a first steps on a plan.
I like it.
Okay,
Now, an idea that I
we
had.
have 1 minute.
That would
Okay.
be inexpensive would be to identify the parking spaces with the same rocks that we use for the border, but set them an inch high. And so that it would match. We could leave the surface like it is. I think we'll get pushback on paving, and that's my thought.
Okay, interesting, yep. No, I think there'll be lots of, ideas for that, okay? Anybody have anything else? So budget, we didn't really go into because we don't yet know what we want to recommend. But I feel like we made a lot of progress. I hope the committees will come back to the next meeting. What I would like you to do is, Desiree and I meet the Wednesday before the week before to talk about what the agenda will be. So if your committee, has, and if everybody will basically take one committee and sort of chair it, y'all can talk amongst yourselves, and have that one person report back to me and Desiree that you're ready to have something for the packet, and then send it to us both, and then she'll get it in the packet for the next meeting. Sound good?
Sounds like a
Okay,
plan.
let's do it. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, well done.